It's always really a treasure and a pleasure to be here. As Mark said, I've been posting on Instagram, Facebook each night, and then sending an email out the following morning for the 49 days of the Omer. And I know some of you have been receiving those. And I was pretty clear about the day up until like 45, 46. And I just was like, oh my gosh, we're almost there. It's been a joy. I just wanted to say, I'm going to put my email address in the chat here. I will be posting both this evening and tomorrow evening for Shavuot, and the emails will come out the following mornings with another little practice if you want to stay connected. Limitless Judaism is going through some shifts, so the website will change and some offerings will be coming out in the next couple of months. If you want to subscribe, you'll hear all about that. Today's practice, before we actually begin, I want to say that we're on a cusp. I guess we're always on a cusp, right? Between this moment and the next moment. And we are on the cusp of completing this 49th day of the Omer and literally entering into the divine experience that we'll have for Shavuot. So, Natalie, if you would mind sharing screen. And the source sheet is in the chat if you'd like to have it. Some very, very simple visuals for today. Thank you. Today is Malchut in Malchut. And Malchut, perhaps traditionally translated as kingship. It could be queenship, sovereignty. It is the place of Shekhinah. And it is the place of palace, which we'll look at a little bit more in depth in the second photograph, if you would, Natalie, scroll down. Or not. So the second, there we go, beautiful, thank you. This piece here, this visual gives us some insights into Malchut. And for those of you who've been in an Omer practice for the last 49 days or have done one in the past, this may be somewhat familiar to you. For those for whom this is new, I love this word palace, and we're going to work with that a little bit in today's meditation. And I also want to work with the concept of Shekhinah, because Shekhinah, we understand that Shekhinah and Malchut are a conduit, right? The Shekhinah Malchut presence at the base of the spine is a conduit between the energy of the earth and the ground in this material reality and the energy of the Sphirot, the spiritual, going up our bodies and going to the infinite. So today's meditation will also bring us into connection with that duality and how we are perhaps the antenna or the pole that holds the antenna, so that this communication can take place and evolve us and evolve creation. So with that, we can take away the screen share for now. And thank you. Thank you, Natalie. There's no sound for Malchut, which feels right. I've been meditating with Malchut, obviously, throughout these weeks, but more intimately these last days. And it has been bringing things to me that have been unexpected. So as we move through our practice today, and perhaps as we close the practice, if you have any discoveries you'd like to share in the chat, I welcome those. So let us find our spot. And I find that sitting is good for Malchut, because in a seated position, we can feel our pelvis more grounded. And feel supported. So I invite you to soften your eyes, close your eyes, or create a soft focus on something if that's more preferable to you. Let's take a minute to feel ourselves in space. To feel our body in the chair, legs uncrossed, arms uncrossed, opening in the heart and the chest so that the Holy Havaya can breathe us in and out. And drop away what may have been going on for you this morning. And bit by bit, I invite you to bring your attention to the base of your spine, the coccyx bone. It usually curls under just a little bit forward to help hold us in space. And when you feel where that is for you, I invite you to soften the energy around it and allow your tailbone to float downward. Do you notice a change in the way your body feels in the chair with just that subtle awareness? It's as if you've opened that conduit between your trunk, your lower belly, and the ground through your legs. And in so doing, have allowed the energy from the earth to come into you through your feet and legs. And that energy comes up again through your tailbone. All the way through your spine. Touching the nerve plexes and energetic areas of all of the sphirot in the rest of the body. Even to the upper sphirot, the upper three, Chokhmah, Bina, and Da'at, that are not included. Chokhmah, Bina, and Keter, that are not included in our Omer journey. Yet are very much a part of our spiritual world. Allow that energy from the ground to make its way all the way up through your spine and shoulders, neck, head, and out through the top of your head, connecting you with the infinite. This is you sending up your divine wisdom to the upper spiritual realms. And when you're ready, I invite you to open up Keter, the top of the crown, as Malchut begins the other part of the journey. The divine energy that comes down from the intimate. That is yours. Yours to feel. Yours to perceive. Yours to understand. And digest. And bring out in feeling and deed. And to create from. As it moves down the sphirot in the body, back to Malchut. Where, you can say, this is now what I bring back to the earth of spirit. In this holy day of Malchut Sheba Malchut, let us feel the palace. It may start at the base of your spine. You might expand it to be all of you, to fill all of you. As you rest in discovery of divine encounter. Energies moving up and down. They come to synthesize and actualize in Malchut. We'll take some quiet time. What is it that you bring to the mountain this Shavuot? What do you offer to the sacred infinite? What is yours to receive as we stand at the foot of the mountain? What blessings, what learnings, what discoveries will be yours? We're already there because we're always here. And presence is this moment. May your Malchut be strongly in presence with you throughout this Shavuot holiday and beyond.
Thank you so much, Robin. Let's seal that beautiful practice by creating some space here for those of us who are in mourning or observing a yard site, or if it's your custom to join in the mourner's Kaddish, you're welcome to do so and to put the name or names of those you're honoring today in the chat. And if you're not reciting Kaddish, we ask that you please stay present for those who are to create a minyan of comfort and support. Thanks to Andrew and Natalie for sharing the words of the Kaddish on our screen. And if you're reciting it, I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit, and you can unmute at this time. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Yimei Rabbah, Yama, Dibra Shivute, Gam Nifma Pute, Hayechon, Yamechon, Hayed L'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, Bizman Karib, Imru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevarach, Le'olam Amen, Vayah. Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yipa'ar, V'yipramam, V'yitnaseh, Yitzar, Yitaleh, Yitalal, Shmei Tekudsha, B'richu, Ha'ela, Mincha, V'shurata, Tushbachata, V'nechamata, Ha'amran, Ba'ama, V'yimru, Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba, Mishemaya, Chaim Aleinu, V'Yalko Yisrael, V'yimru, Amen. Oseh Shalom B'neimav, V'yaseh Shalom Aleinu,
Kol Yisrael,
L'kol Yoshvei Tevel, V'yimru, Amen.
Amen.
Friends, thanks so much for joining us today. And if you're leaving us now, wishing you Chag Sameach, a meaningful Shavuot, and hope that today's sit and teaching and practice really helps settle you in for the holiday. And we will be back live. Just to remind you that we will not be meeting tomorrow or Thursday, but we'll be back on Friday to sit into Shabbat with Zach Newman of Hamakom. And we hope to see you then if you're leaving us now. Of course, as always, you're welcome to stay on for conversation with our teacher today, Rabbi Robin Damsky of Limitless Judaism. And if you have a question you'd like to share with Robin, just put it in the chat, preface it by writing question, or feel free, of course, to use the chat to share reflections, observations about your experience with the practice today. Thanks so much, as always, to Andrew Schumann and also to Natalie Rushinoff, who's joining us today to hold our tech space. And grateful to you, Andrew and Natalie, and to each of you for being here. So, Robin, let's bring you in, and I'll keep an eye out for questions. So, Robin, thank you so much. That was great. That was great. I could stay with that a lot longer. Guess I have two questions. One, let's start with one. One, just to give you a heads up, I think I'd be interested in hearing your experience of an Omer practice now that we're on day 49 here, not only of having a practice but of teaching throughout the Omer, like what that's like for you as a teacher to actually move through it. But I'm going to set that question aside for a second. Let's just start.
Okay.
Let's just start with Malchut. Um, you were describing all the different, qualities that are associated with this sphera, and this is Malchut Sheba Malchut. It's, intense Malchut energy today. And it's always a little challenging for me because just that root Melech Malchut, or even when you translate it into English, even if we make it gender neutral of sovereignty, it's not a word that that resonates for me. So I wanted to just check in with you about how you experience that, or is there another word that might be less exact and it's that kind of works for you, that captures the essence of what this time is about?
Yeah, great question. And I find myself going to the word palace often. Because to me, it is this exquisite space that is completely empty and completely able to hold at the same time. And when we think of palace, we often think of something that's very ornate, which might be sovereignly, if you will, to avoid the gender terms. And I think of it in terms of just this really quiet, open place where spirit can move through. So that's one thing. And I do go to the Shekhinah a lot, which is gendered. And that might not work for some folks. I go there, I guess, primarily because I think she could use a little extra time, Shekhinah, the feminine indwelling presence. And it's also just, to me, like this intuitive wisdom. That's part of what I understand as Shekhinah. So I tend to work with those two terms more than, I might say sovereign self more than sovereignty, which might give us this idea of like somebody out there in a role of leadership. But I do say sovereign self sometimes.
That works. That works. I mean, the idea that Shekhinah as an alternative name for this sphera is, I think that does work for me. Leaving it, regardless of the gender, just the whole idea of kind of dwelling and presence, I found as accessible and powerful. So a couple of questions came in. Let's table my question about the Omer practice. Maybe that'll be a nice way to wrap up. There's a question from Lori about, thank you for this exquisite practice. In all sincere humility, I don't know what I bring to offer at the mountain, what you called our divine wisdom to offer up. I always only thought of it as divine wisdom coming down to be received. So that's a really interesting question. Is it receiving? Is it delivering? Is it channeling?
Yeah, so I so appreciate that because this is literally a conduit. This place of Malchut is a conduit between the manifest physical reality in which we dwell. I'm looking out at trees and I have an office around me. and the spiritual realm, and I hesitate to think of the spiritual realm as upwards because I think it's also downwards. And yet in the language of the Sefirot, right, each of these is on one of our body parts down here at the base of the spine,
Mm-hmm.
right shoulder, left shoulder. So we are raising that energy up. And this idea of conduit is that we are literally, a pathway to bring in divinity and send it out to the world around us, and then to bring in whatever discovery we've learned from that and send it back up. I think of it like the times when, for example, like when Abraham says to God about Sodom and Gomorrah, well, wait a minute, will you rethink this,
Mm-hmm.
please? And has this
Mm-hmm.
like really intense conversation with God. And then Moses has similar kinds of conversations later in the book of Exodus, that we have an effect on spirit. And I think that is, it's like the people who meditate and change the temperature of a glass of water. We have the capacity to transform reality. Prayer, the
Mm-hmm.
Mishabara prayer, these
Mm-hmm.
energies transform. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe, Lori, that might be something to play with.
I like that. I also really like Molly's response about, which is a response, I guess, to the sense of, what do I have to bring? You bring
Yeah,
yourself, your commitment,
right.
your love, your faith, your awe. You deserve what comes down to you. Am Yisrael deserves what you have to offer up. It's really lovely.
Thank you, Molly. That's really exquisite. Yeah. And the thing is that we may not be able to quantify in words what we bring,
Mm-hmm.
but if you talk to the people around you, they'll tell you what you bring. And we
That
may
is good.
discover new things that we bring, as we do
Yeah.
this spiritual journey. Just a tiny response to your earlier question, Mark, that I think that being in this practice creates the opportunity to say, oh, that's a piece of me. That's
Mm-hmm.
something I bring, or I never really thought about that before. So it really is this a piece of that.
Heidi said, I think I know the answer to this one. The 49th day meditation resonated with me. Can this be done any day? I am dealing with a physical illness, and this gave me a sense of spiritual power over what's going on in my body. I no longer feel as passive.
So Heidi, my thoughts are with you. Yes, yes. I think that one of the amazing discoveries about the Omer practice is that you could take any one day, right? Any day,
Mm-hmm.
and do that for a month or longer, because each day has energies that interact that may really speak to who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Rabbi Ted Falcon, whose book I worked with a lot, and it's called, I think it's an Omer journey. It's a
Mm-hmm.
great little book. He says in his opening that this is a practice that can be done any time in the year, that you pick 49, you just say, okay, I need a spiritual journey. And you begin and you give yourself the 49-day journey. And it is a spiritual, it's a spiritual walk. So yes, and if this meditation speaks to you, absolutely, do it daily.
No, what I'm
Yeah.
thinking, what you just said, Robin, makes me think. I was thinking of other stretches of time in the Jewish year where you could think about, oh, that's a period for this daily practice, including coming up, coming up next after Shavuot, the period around Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, and before that, 17th of Tammuz, basically and the period that's described in Alan Liu's book, which many of you probably read last year with us, and hopefully we'll reread again this year. This is real, and you were completely unprepared. The period between the 9th of Av and Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year, is also a time that people do count. But what I was going to say is, really, you can think about each day of the Jewish year as a moment of marking something unique in the movement towards whatever the next landmark is in the Jewish calendar, right? Like, sometimes we think, oh, there's not much happening in that phase of the Jewish calendar, but you could I was just thinking, like you're saying, you could take these 49 days and you could use them or something like them for the period between Hanukkah and Tu B'Shvat, right? You could have a daily practice of some kind tuned into where we are in the Jewish year.
Yeah.
So
And
there's a number of books you could write, Robin, about this.
it's funny because I was speaking with somebody just this week who was talking about doing an Omer walk through the calendar, like a month on each sphira.
Oh, there you go.
Something to think about. Something to
Yeah.
think about.
So I'm going to invite, let's go back to my question,
Yeah.
which, we had a chance to percolate it a little bit. If you're willing to share a little bit for yourself personally, you've been a teacher now, through this period, and you've done this before. What is it like to be somebody who is teaching this day by day over the Omer? What's it like? What's it been like for you, would you say?
It's extraordinary and it's terrifying. It's extraordinary because there's something about this process that really speaks to me. As a former professional dancer, as a body worker, as someone who is embodied and thinking and feeling about this physical representation of spirit, working with these energies and connecting them to different parts of my body, it gives me an opportunity to really feel into how spirit is moving within me. And then what's terrifying is, how do I say it in a way that might be meaningful for somebody else? And can I do it in less than 2,200 words, or Instagram won't post it? And is it too long? And is it too esoteric? So it's wide and beautiful. And then I hear back from people about how meaningful it's been. And it's like, okay, so maybe it wasn't as esoteric as I thought. But yet it has something very, very rooted and grounded in it. And it also has something very spiritual and cosmic in it. And so it is like traversing that plane of like not all here and not all there and all there and all here at the same time. And how do I synthesize that?
Well,
How's
you've
that?
been that's great. That's great. You've been a beautiful guide for many, including lots of
Thanks.
people here.
Thanks.
And the question was coming from actually from myself, thinking about, although I do the Omer count and, and like everybody, sometimes it's a struggle to keep up with the count, or I feel like, oh, I lost it. So what's the point? Get back into it. But for me, I remember the first time I actually taught day by day, which was 5 years ago, doing this. And
yeah,
for me, I would say it was like one of the most, if not the most, powerful Jewish spiritual experiences I've had.
Yeah.
Being really immersed in it. Like, it's one thing to be talking about it or describing it, but it's another thing to really feel it in the body day by day, week by week.
Yes.
So to some extent, each of us, I think, who have participated in our sits over this period, since Pesach, it's been really such a joy to share that journey. Some folks have been counting with you. Some folks have been involved with us with awareness and action for the Omer, and we're wrapping that up today um, uh, with one final sort of additional session. But there's something incredibly powerful, and I want to thank you and say kol hakavod for your teaching for the 7 weeks, and kol hakavod to everyone here for showing up, whether it was every day or a few days or one day or just today, joining us and being part of this. It's really powerful. It is transformative. It's like water on a rock. It does make a difference. And it's really a blessing to get to share it with everybody. So thanks again, Robin, as always.
Thanks, Mark. And I've had requests to put these on audio. I didn't do that for this year, but I very seriously will look at that for next year.
Great. Great. All right. And
everybody. Blessings.
Chag Sameach, Robin, thank you. And thanks to Andrew and Natalie for holding our space, each of you. Really, Chag Sameach, everyone. We'll hopefully see you on Friday to sit into Shabbat together. I'll see you all at Sinai somewhere. I'll be wearing, probably not, look for me in this shirt. I'll keep it on so it's easy to see. Okay. Be well, everyone. Chag Sameach.
That's amazing.